Onyx Storm has made me feel a little empty inside. There are definitely some times at the end of the book that I cried. I cried a few times, a nice hard cry. This book really took it out of me, and I am going to say, typically, I try not to give any spoilers. So, spoiler alert here, I am actually going to talk about some things that have gone on in the book that I just feel like this book took me through such an emotional roller coaster that I really want to talk about the things that happened and that have touched other people in the way it has me. And in order to do that, I'm going to, you know, tell people some things that are in the book that it'll be a spoiler. So this file still follows Violet. They are the main goal of this book now is to find a cure for Xaden because he is a Venan, and to find Indarna's family because that is what is going to save the Aretian wards. So that's how like the start of the book goes through. And also, like, to start off with, I'm just going to hit some like major points of whoa when this happened and follow the flow of the book, because this was like another really long book of Rebecca Yarros and we all enjoyed it. One of the first thoughts I had through this is, when is the King Tori, going to recognize that his son is a writer? Like, what is going on with all of this? Like, it seemed like such a big deal. Like, your son is a prince. Granted, he's not the next up in line to take the throne, but you would think it would be a bigger deal than it was, or what it has seemed. And it isn't until like later in the book in Onyx Storm that Halden, finally his brother who is the prince, finally finds out that, oh hey, Eric Cam is his real name, is a writer and has a dragon, and this is where he's been, instead of like searching like brothels and bars to find out where this kid is. So another point that in Iron Flame I had thought, it seemed like, and maybe I missed this point, tell me if I did, that the wards that they put up in Arisha were not going to last that long. And then so all of a sudden in Onyx Storm, they're talking as if these wards are actually going to last like many months to years. And so it kind of like flipped my brain where I'm like, okay, well, I guess we have like a lot more time now than I thought we did. There was some Venan infiltration at the college because, the Venan attacked, a bunch of people at the college. They definitely think that there's a traitor in the mist, and Sweet Sawyer is in the infirmary with all the people who passed away, and he lost his poor little leg, and we just love him so much. And I hope that in the fourth book he gets his strength back to become the writer that he really wants to be. At first, like, and I'm sure that many other people who read this book, when Violet started having all of these vivid dreams, like very vivid dreaming, that had to do with her signet. But I had thought, my first thought was that it had to do with like telling the future, something that was going to happen, when in the end of the book you find out that she's a dream walker. But then she loses the dream walker ability because as time goes by, and Darna ends up leaving to go be with her family. You'll find out other things as you read through that. They end up finding her family. They basically shun her, and they meet this dragon Leothan, and he's like, hey, you weren't what we expected, so we're not going to accept you into our den. Per se. But things kind of ended up working out at the end, because Leothan ends up showing up at the end of the book in the war and firing the last 7th dragon ward for the Aretian wards, and so it's like up, back, and running. That was a mind screw right there. Like, dang, okay, like here we are. Another thing I thought of, and maybe other people have thought of it too, because of the way Fourth Wing went, they were first years. Iron Flame went second years. And I thought Onyx Storm was going to be like, okay, we're third years now. But now a lot has happened between Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, like, y'all are only second year still. You know, Violet has a whole third year to go through with 2 other books that are coming out. You know, then they go through the phase of Xaden becomes a professor, and Violet's like, oh, that, you know, breaks the rules of the codex, so we can't be together anymore. And, you know, I kind of rolled my eyes at that part, because I'm like, come on, girl, you guys have been, you know, traitors to Navarre and left the school and, you know, basically created a revolution, and you're worried about who's dating who. Like, come on. I was a little, like, rolled my eyes about that a little bit. And then we find out, which I thought this was funny, and it really took me by surprise. I think it probably took other people by surprise as well, is Halden is Violet's ex. Halden, the prince, is Violet's ex. And there are times in the book where you find out that Violet's father was in on this, and he was kind of expecting for Violet and Halden to, like, wind up together. We don't really hear from Scale, Xaden's dragon, all too much in the beginning of the book, and then all of a sudden at the end of the book you're hearing from her more. Maybe that has to do with, it probably does have to do with, it's more like war based. Like, the first third of the book is more at Basgath, more classes and training and things like that, and then, like, the second third of the book is them searching for Indarna's family, and then the third part of the book is, you know, more war based. You know, we meet Xaden's mother. Xaden's mother comes along, and well, they're searching for Indarna's family, and that was not something I expected to happen. That was crazy. The stories that Rebecca told while they are searching for Indarna's family, traveling from island to island, those were great. I really enjoyed those. It brought a lot of depth, color, and diversity to the book, which I really appreciated. You know, we do have a death. Traeger does die, and we feel bad for Kat, because now we have some sympathy. We can sympathize with Kat. We kind of like her now. She has turned into what would we say, a oh gosh, what would we say, like, we appreciate her. She is a good tool to have now. Like, we like having her around. Then during the war at the end, Eric says, you need to go protect the Temple of Dune. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Temple of Dune is for Dune, the god of luck, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong. And there is this tradition basically where back in the day, people would, I'm not going to say condemn. What's the word? I'm missing it. But I'm going to use the word condemn because I'm forgetting the word. Their children to Dune. Crap, I can't remember. Basically, they're like, hey, my child is going to live for you, basically. Not in any kind of, like, really bad way, but they just kind of did away with it because it's a little taboo. Let's just say that. But how did he know that we should go protect the Temple of Dune? And so this is where I started thinking, okay, he has the ability like Melgren, where he can predict wars. But then we find out that he actually has the signet of precognition, which is incredible. You know, Theophany, the Venan that has been terrorizing Violet in her dreams and in these battles. She used to be a priestess for the Temple of Dune. So it's like all kind of coming together. Leothan ends up coming back, and he fires the ward stone. He says to Indarna, hey, I really actually do want to take you back. I do want to teach you about our family and the ways of our life, but you basically have to forsake Violet in order to do this. And so that was a huge part in the end, in the battle, where you're like, okay, Violet has lost a dragon, which is like almost a death sentence for most writers. And now she has left, and so that is something I did not expect. She left, and then Sloane. Okay, here's another part. Okay, so Sloane, she is the siphon basically for signets. Like she can siphon signet to transfer the power, right? And so she has to do that in order to save Mara on the battlefield with Theophany, and you know, her neck is sliced, and so we wanna save her. So again, Sloane steps in and she takes power from Dane and gives it to Brennan so that he can save her. And one of the things I, you know, like really kind of thought about was like when she said, oh my gosh, no one should have as much power as you have, because it's almost like she's like she can measure like the battery, like how much power people have by being the siphon that she is. And I'm like, okay, there has to be something coming up in the next few books where that part is, you know, going to come together, because that was huge. Imogen has a second signet. She can turn things to stone, and you don't find this out until like the very last few pages of this book. And it mentioned like some comment that Quinn says before she dies, like, you need to be with the man that you love or something. And it's like, okay, well then who does she love? Does she love Riddick? Does she love Bodhi? Does she love Garrick? Like, who is she in love with? There are some other moments where, you know, Xaden, he goes to the darkness because in this last battle they're trying to save the city of Drathis, and in order to do it he has to pull the magic from the earth again, and so it sinks him further into the darkness. And at this point in time, it gives Violet the opportunity to kill Theophany. And then he mentions like, oh, someone turned, like they are now my Venan brother, but I never would have thought this person would have turned Venan. Who is that person? Because the person that I had first thought was Garrick, because Garrick was the one following him around this whole book, trying to make sure he was on the straight and narrow to not, you know, fall further into the darkness. Then all of a sudden, I guess Andarna comes back. Like, okay, you left. How long were you gone? Like a week, and then you came back, and so the timeline on that kind of threw me. Maybe if you guys have theories or opinions, or you read something better than I did, please let me know, because I was like, whoa, how are you back again already? Like, I would have thought that would have been something that would happen in the fourth book. And then at the very, very end of the book, Xaden and Violet are married, and Imogen took Violet's memory. Like, my mind is just blown, and it's a lot to process. It was emotionally gripping, and I was just like overwhelmed. I was very overwhelmed with all of this in a great way. Like, this book was so good, and you know, like I said, I cried. Like, it touched my heart, and it was really good. And you know, this is just like, the romance was still there, not very steamy, you know, obviously, you know, some scenes, but the love that Xaden and Violet have for each other has developed, and he is very like permanent with it. He you know, makes comments throughout this book where it's like, you know, girlfriend isn't permanent enough. This is my consort, because he's a duke. This Violet is my consort, and now at the end they're married. So I think, even though I knew that Violet loved him very much, I think he was taking this relationship more seriously than she, okay, seriously in the permanent sense than she was. He just loves her so much, and even when he reached for the darkness again at the end and became even more Venan, and I think Scale said something to him like, you know, what is there to even worry about with you anymore, because you're not even there, you're the darkness now. But he cared, like he cared to ask, he cared. He still worries about, what is Violet going to think about him, what is Scale going to think about him. And that is the difference between him and the other Venan, is because he cares. And I really hope that this isn't like a very sad end of the story with these next two books where he passes away, because I just will be so sad about that. I don't know if I can handle him leaving, dying like that. I really hope that there ends up being a career, even though the Urids, ended up saying that there wasn't one. I really hope that there is, because I need a happy ending for this. Good parts in this book. Obviously, it's very exciting. It's very emotionally gripping. There is so much to unravel, and it gets you thinking, and you're just like, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? What's my hypothesis for this? And so that was great. The only downside, I'm going to say, the first like third of the book was a little slow for me. I was like, oh my gosh, when are we going to get to the good parts? But I'm still going to give it a 5 for 5. I think it was great. Rebecca Yarros is, very, very talented. She's a great author, and I am so happy to have read her books. I know on the Super Bowl, she had posted on Instagram, I think, that she just started filling out her note cards to start writing the fourth book. And so I think we are all anxiously waiting to see when that will be finished and when they will be publishing that for us to read. I know they're doing like an Amazon series that Michael B. Jordan is going to be directing, so that's going to be really exciting. I'm pumped for this series, and I can't wait to read the next two books. So thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon. I am going to start, another book right away. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be next, but I will let you know as soon as I do. And once again, thanks for watching.